My brother stole my identity to take out loans for his failing business, so I pressed charges on his wedding day, and the police arrived just as he was saying I do. I've been saving for a house for 3 years, eating ramen and skipping vacations, just to get to a point where I could finally buy a place of my own. My brother, let's call him Todd, is the opposite. He's 30, the family golden child, and a serial entrepreneur whose businesses always fail spectacularly. Last week, I finally applied for pre-approval on a mortgage. I walked into the bank feeling proud, only to have the loan officer look at me with pity. She told me that not only was I denied, but my credit score had tanked because of 3 defaulted business loans totaling nearly $80,000. I almost threw up right there in the office. I told her that was impossible, that I'd never taken out a business loan in my life. She turned the screen around and showed me the paperwork. It had my social security number, my old address, and my name. But the contact email was a variation of Todd's gaming handle. I confronted Todd immediately. He didn't even deny it. He laughed it off nervously and told me he borrowed my info because his credit was shot and he needed capital for his new dropshipping venture, which naturally had already gone under. He said he intended to pay it back before I ever noticed. Then came the kicker. He told me to chill out because he's getting married this Saturday to his fiancée, Brianna, and he didn't want this drama ruining his big weekend. I went to our parents, expecting them to be furious. Instead, my mom started crying and begged me not to go to the police. She told me that Todd was under so much stress with the wedding and that if I reported him, I would be destroying the family. My dad actually looked me in the eye and said that if I really loved my brother, I would just eat the debt and let Todd pay me back when he makes it big. They're gaslighting me into thinking I'm the villain for wanting to report a felony that has ruined my financial future. The wedding is in 48 hours. I have the police report filled out and ready to go. My parents are threatening to disown me if I file it before the wedding. They want me to wait until he comes back from his honeymoon so he can enjoy his special day. I feel like I'm going insane. AITA if I file this now and potentially ruin his wedding? Commenter 1. Dude, NTA. This isn't drama. This is a felony. $80,000? That's life-altering money. If you wait, he could flee the country on his honeymoon or rack up even more debt. File that report yesterday. Your parents are enablers and frankly, they're just as bad as he is for trying to cover it up. Burn it all down. Commenter 2. Do not wait. I work in fraud detection. The longer you wait to report it, the more it looks like you were complicit or that it's a civil dispute between family members rather than identity theft. You need to protect yourself immediately. Also, does his fiancée know he's a fraud? She's about to legally bind herself to this debt. You might be saving her life too. Update 1. The morning of the wedding. Reading your comments gave me the wake-up call I needed. I realized that my loyalty to my family was being weaponized against me. I felt sick to my stomach, a mix of rage and heartbreak, but I knew I couldn't let this slide. I went to the police station the morning after I posted. I sat down with a detective and laid it all out. I gave him the bank statements, the texts where Todd admitted to using my ID, and the recording of the conversation where my parents tried to coerce me into silence. The detective was visibly shocked by the amount of money involved. He told me that this wasn't just petty theft. It was grand larceny and aggravated identity theft. When he asked where Todd was so they could pick him up for questioning, I hesitated. I knew exactly where he was going to be. I told the detective that Todd was getting married on Saturday at a high-end country club downtown. I felt a pang of guilt, wondering if I was being too vindictive. But then I remembered the smirk on Todd's face when he told me to chill out about 80 grand. The detective told me that they usually try to avoid big scenes, but given the flight risk, Todd and Brianna were scheduled to fly to the Maldives for 2 weeks immediately after the reception. They had to act before he left the jurisdiction. They decided they would execute the warrant at the venue. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Todd. I just put on my suit this morning and drove to the wedding venue like a good brother. The atmosphere at the country club was suffocating. It was an extravagant event, open bar, live band, thousands of dollars in flowers. I stood there looking at the lavish decorations and realized that my credit score might have helped pay for the champagne tower. I felt like screaming. My mom came up to me before the ceremony started, fixing my tie. She whispered that she was so proud of me for doing the right thing and keeping quiet. She told me that family always protects family and that Todd would make it up to me. I almost choked on my own bile. I just nodded and told her that everything was going to be handled today. She smiled, having no idea what I meant. I took my seat in the second row. The ceremony began, and everyone stood up as Brianna walked down the aisle. She looked beautiful, and for a second, I felt terrible for her. She had no idea she was marrying a criminal who had leveraged his own brother's future to play businessman. The officiant started the service. It was one of those long, sentimental ceremonies. Todd was crying, wiping fake tears from his eyes, talking about honesty and building a future together during his vows. I was checking my watch, my heart hammering against my ribs. I kept glancing toward the back entrance, just as the officiant asked Todd the big question. Do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I heard the heavy doors at the back of the hall creak open. 2 uniformed officers and 2 detectives in suits walked in. The room was dead silent, so the sound of their boots on the hardwood floor echoed like gunshots. Todd was just opening his mouth to say I do when the lead detective spoke up, his voice booming across the stunned congregation. He called out Todd's full name and announced that they had a warrant for his arrest. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I have ever heard. Todd froze. He looked like a deer in headlights, his mouth hanging open. Brianna dropped her bouquet. My mother let out a scream that I will never forget, a sound of pure, unadulterated horror. Todd tried to play it cool for about 3 seconds. He turned to the cops and nervously laughed, asking if this was some kind of prank from the groomsmen. The detective walked right up to the altar, took out the handcuffs, and told him that identity theft and bank fraud were definitely not a prank. That's when the chaos erupted. Todd started shouting that I had set him up, pointing his finger at me from the altar. He screamed that I was jealous, that I was trying to ruin his life because I was a loser. My dad stood up and tried to block the police, yelling that they couldn't do this here, but the officers warned him to step back or he'd be arrested for obstruction. I just sat there, frozen in the second row, watching my brother get handcuffed in his tuxedo. As they dragged him down the aisle, past his sobbing bride and our hysterical mother, he locked eyes with me. The look on his face wasn't regret. It was pure, unmasked hatred. They shoved him into the back of a squad car right in front of the venue entrance. The wedding was over before the rings were even exchanged. Now I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot. My phone is blowing up. I have 30 missed calls from my mom, 10 from my dad, and a string of texts from extended family members calling me a monster. I'm trembling, not from fear, but from the adrenaline crash. I know I did the legally right thing, but seeing my mother collapse on the floor of the church has messed me up. I'm currently hiding in my car. My family is demanding I come back inside to explain myself and try to fix this with the police, as if I can just unarrest him. I want to just drive away and turn off my phone, but I feel like I owe Brianna an explanation. Should I face them now, or should I go ghost and let the lawyers handle it? Commenter 1. Drive. Drive away right now. Do not go back in there. There is nothing you can say to your parents that will make them understand because they have spent a lifetime enabling him. If you go back in, they will corner you and gang up on you. As for Brianna, she needs time to process. Sending her a letter or an email later with the proof is better than a confrontation in a parking lot. Save yourself. Commenter 2. Do not engage. Your brother screamed that you were jealous while being arrested for stealing $80,000 from you. That shows you exactly who he is. He isn't sorry. Your parents are grieving the loss of their fantasy, not the reality of their criminal son. Go home, lock your doors, and call a lawyer. You are unsafe around them right now. Commenter 3. Holy ST, you actually did it. You are a legend, but you are also in the danger zone. Your family is in high emotion mode. People do irrational things when they are humiliated. Leave the venue. You don't owe anyone anything right now. You've already paid $80,000 for this ticket to the drama show. Update 2. 1 week later. I took your advice. I didn't go back into the venue. I put my car in drive, turned off my phone, and drove 2 hours to a motel 2 towns over. I spent the first night staring at the ceiling, listening to the buzzing of the mini fridge, wondering if I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. For the last week, I've been practically living underground. I haven't gone back to my apartment because I know my parents have keys, emergency set, and I don't trust them not to be waiting there. I'm staying on a friend's couch. Let's call him Alex. Alex has been a saint, fielding calls from mutual friends and running interference. When I finally turned my phone back on 3 days ago, the notifications nearly crashed the device. Hundreds of texts, voicemails that filled the mailbox to capacity. It's a mix of flying monkeys, relatives I haven't seen in 5 years telling me I'm selfish, and absolute venom from my parents. My dad left a voicemail that chilled me to the bone. He didn't sound angry, he sounded cold. He said, "You've made your point. Now go down to the station, tell them it was a misunderstanding, and get your brother out. If you don't, you are dead to us." My mom's texts are more manic. She oscillates between begging, sending me photos of us as kids, and cursing me out. She claims Brianna, the almost bride, has had a nervous breakdown and that it's all my fault. Speaking of Brianna, she reached out to me yesterday. No screaming, no caps lock. Just a simple text. "Can we please talk? I need to know the truth. Please." I feel like I'm walking through a minefield. My gut says Brianna is a victim here too, but my paranoia is telling me it's a trap set by my parents to get me in a room and bully me into recanting my statement to the police. If I meet her, I risk an ambush. If I don't, I feel like I'm punishing her for Todd's crimes. Should I meet her? And how do I handle my parents essentially trying to blackmail me into dropping charges that the DA already picked up? Commenter 1. Meet Brianna, but do not do it alone. Take Alex with you. Pick a public place with cameras, like a busy coffee shop. She almost married a con artist. She deserves to see the paperwork. As for your parents, save every voicemail and screenshot every text. That is witness tampering and harassment. You might need a restraining order. Commenter 2. Do not meet her. She is likely being manipulated by your parents to guilt trip you. Look at the poor crying bride you destroyed. It's a classic manipulation tactic. Send her copies of the police report via email if you must, but protect your peace. You are in survival mode right now. Commenter 3. I'm a lawyer, not yours. You need to understand that even if you wanted to, you can't just drop charges for grand larceny and identity theft. The state is prosecuting him now, not just you. Your parents are delusional. Meet Brianna if you want closure, but keep it brief. She needs to know her credit might be next. Update 3. I read through the replies and decided that commenter 1 was right. I couldn't leave Brianna in the dark. If the roles were reversed, I'd want to know. but I wasn't going to be stupid about it. I texted Brianna back and told her I would meet her at a Starbucks inside a busy shopping mall on the other side of the city. I told her explicitly, if Todd, my parents, or anyone else is with you, I am walking out immediately. She agreed. I took Alex with me. He sat 2 tables away, pretending to be on his laptop, just in case things went south. When Brianna walked in, she looked like a ghost. She was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie, no makeup, eyes puffy and red. She looked 10 years older than she did walking down the aisle a week ago. I felt a pang of guilt, but I shoved it down. I didn't do this. Todd did. I bought her a coffee. She sat down and didn't touch it. She just looked at me and asked if it was true. She asked if I really called the cops on the wedding day just to be petty, which is the narrative my parents had spun for her. I didn't say a word. I just reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. I slid the credit report, the loan applications with Todd's fake email, and the bank statements across the table. She read them in silence. I watched her face go from confusion to horror. Her hands started shaking so hard she had to put the papers down. She whispered that Todd told her his business was booming. He told her he had $100,000 in savings. They were in escrow on a house, or so she thought. She pulled out her phone and showed me a Zillow listing. She said Todd handled all the paperwork and told her not to worry about the down payment because he had it covered. I looked at the listing. It was pending sale, but I told her to call the realtor right now and ask whose name was on the contract. She did. She put it on speaker. The realtor sounded confused and told her that the offer on that house fell through 3 weeks ago because the buyer never deposited the earnest money. Todd had been faking the entire home buying process. He was going to marry her and move her into a house that he didn't even have a contract for. Brianna hung up the phone and put her head in her hands. She started sobbing quietly. She told me that she had quit her job 2 weeks ago because Todd insisted he could support them both while she went back to grad school. He had isolated her financially, and now she was married to nothing but debt. Well, almost married. Thank God the officiant didn't finish. Then she dropped the bomb that shattered whatever tiny shred of love I had left for my parents. She wiped her eyes and looked at me. She asked if I knew that Mom and Dad had given Todd the down payment for that business loan. I was confused. I told her Todd stole my identity to get the loan. She shook her head. She said that 6 months ago, she heard Todd and my mom arguing in the kitchen. Todd was crying about being broke. My mom apparently told him, "We can't give you any more cash. Your father is tapping out his retirement. But maybe you can use your brother's info just for a bridge loan? He has good credit, he won't notice, and you can pay it back before he buys a house." The world stopped spinning. I felt like I'd been punched in the throat. It wasn't just Todd. It was a conspiracy. My mother, the woman who taught me to tie my shoes and made me soup when I was sick, had actively suggested he cannibalize my financial future to save her golden child from embarrassment. I asked Brianna if she was sure. She said she didn't understand what they meant at the time. She thought using his info meant I had co-signed or agreed to help. She only realized what it meant now that she saw the police report. I sat there in the middle of that Starbucks, feeling a level of rage I didn't know existed. It was a cold, hard rage. I told Brianna to check her own credit immediately. I told her to run, to annul the marriage license if it was signed, it wasn't, and to get as far away from my family as possible. She nodded, grabbed her purse, and left. She looked like a woman marching to war. I drove back to Alex's place in silence. Alex tried to ask me how it went, but I just walked past him and locked myself in the guest room. I called the detective. I told him everything Brianna had told me. I told him that I suspected my parents were accomplices to the fraud. He was very interested. He told me that conspiracy to commit wire fraud is a serious charge and asked if Brianna would be willing to make a statement. After I hung up, I saw a new email in my inbox. It was from my father. The subject line was just, family meeting. The body of the email was short. "We know you're staying with Alex. We are coming over at 6 p.m. to settle this. If you don't come out and talk to us, we are going to report the car you're driving as stolen. The car is in my name, but my dad co-signed for it 4 years ago when I had less credit history. Technically, his name is on the title too. It is 5:30 p.m. I am physically shaking. My parents are on their way here to ambush me at my friend's house. They are threatening to report my car stolen to get me arrested or at least harassed by the cops. Alex says we should lock the doors and call the police if they show up. I'm tempted to go out there and confront them with what I know about their involvement. Do I face them and blow this wide open? Or do I hide and let the police handle my own parents? Commenter 1. Do not go outside. Call the police non-emergency line right now and tell them your parents are coming to harass you and are threatening to file a false police report about the car. Get ahead of the narrative. If you go out there, it will turn into a screaming match. And if the cops show up then, it looks like a domestic dispute. Stay inside. Commenter 2. They are cornered animals. They know the walls are closing in, especially if they think Brianna talked to you. They are dangerous right now. Let them bang on the door. Record it to the window. Do not engage. Also, hiding the car around the block might be a good idea so they can't just tow it. Commenter 3. The betrayal here is Shakespearean. Your mom suggested the identity theft? That is absolutely vile. You need to understand that these people are not your parents anymore. They are your brother's accomplices. Treat them like criminals. Do not open the door. Update 4. Same night. I am writing this from the police station lobby. I can't believe this is my life. At 5:50 p.m., Alex and I moved my car around the block and parked it in a neighbor's driveway. The neighbor knows the situation and is cool. We locked the doors, turned off the lights, and waited. Alex set up his phone in the window to record. At 6 p.m. on the dot, my parents' SUV screeched into the driveway. They didn't knock. They pounded on the door like they were trying to break it down. My dad was screaming my name, yelling for me to be a man and come outside. My mom was wailing. It was a spectacle. The neighbors were definitely watching. When I didn't answer, my dad pulled out his phone. I heard him through the door because he was shouting so loud. He actually called 911. He told the operator that his car had been stolen by his son who was mentally unstable and refusing to return it. That was the moment the last tiny thread of attachment I had to them snapped. He was willing to swap me, to risk me getting hurt or arrested, just to get leverage. Alex had already called the non-emergency line 10 minutes prior to let them know a disturbance was likely, so a patrol car was already nearby. 2 officers arrived while my dad was still on the phone with dispatch. We opened the door then. The scene was chaotic. My dad immediately started playing the victim, telling the officers I was a thief. The officer, a younger guy who looked like he had zero patience for nonsense, asked to see the title. My dad stammered, admitting he co-signed but claiming he was the primary owner. I walked out, hands visible, and handed the officer my phone. I showed him the email. If you don't come out and talk to us, we are going to report the car you're driving as stolen. The officer looked at the email, then looked at my dad. Sir, filing a false police report is a crime. This is clearly a civil dispute, and you are using emergency services to blackmail your son. My dad turned purple. He tried to backtrack, but the officer wasn't having it. He told them to leave the property immediately or they would be trespassed. That's when my mom stepped forward. She looked at me with this twisted expression of sorrow and anger. She said, "We just wanted to talk. We just wanted to fix this before you ruin your brother's life forever. How can you be so cruel? He's your flesh and blood." I looked her dead in the eye and said, loud enough for the officers and the neighbors to hear, "Brianna told me, Mom. She told me you were the one who suggested Todd steal my identity. She told me you planned it in the kitchen 6 months ago." The color drained from her face so fast I thought she was going to faint. My dad looked at her, shocked. Apparently, he didn't know she was the architect. He thought she just knew about it later. I didn't. She stammered. "You are not my mother," I told her. "You are an accomplice to a felony against your own son. Get off my property." The police escorted them to their car. As they drove away, I saw my dad screaming at my mom in the passenger seat. The officers took my statement regarding the false report and the threats. They suggested I get a temporary restraining order. I'm filing for one tomorrow. The officers are gone. My parents are gone. I feel empty. I thought I would feel triumphant, but I just feel like an orphan. I know I have to follow through with the restraining order, but a small, stupid part of me feels guilty for blowing up my parents' marriage on the front lawn. Did I go too far by revealing what Brianna told me in front of my dad? Commenter 1. You didn't blow up their marriage. The truth did. Your mother conspired to ruin you financially. Your father tried to have you arrested to cover it up. They are toxic to the core. You aren't an orphan, you're a survivor. The emptiness is normal. It's grief for the parents you wish you had, not the ones you actually have. Stay strong. Commenter 2. Do not feel guilty. Not for 1 second. That emptiness is peace arriving after years of chaos, but it feels unfamiliar so it feels scary. Get that restraining order. Your dad didn't know? Well, now he does. Maybe he'll wake up, or maybe he'll sink with the ship. Either way, not your problem. Update 5. 8 months later. It's been a while, and I figured I owed you guys a final update since you practically walked me through the hardest week of my life. A lot has changed. First, the legal stuff. Todd didn't go to trial. With the evidence I provided, plus Brianna's testimony, she turned state's witness immediately. His lawyer knew he was cooked. He took a plea deal for 2 counts of aggravated identity theft and 1 count of wire fraud. He was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. He's currently serving time at a low-security facility. I haven't visited, and I never will. The investigation into my parents was messy. Because my mom's involvement was verbal, suggesting the crime, it was harder to pin a specific charge on her like conspiracy without hard recording evidence, and Brianna's word was hearsay. However, the fallout destroyed them anyway. My dad, realizing my mom had jeopardized their retirement and reputation, filed for divorce. He sold the house to pay for Todd's legal defense, which ultimately failed, and is now living in a condo in Florida. He sends me emails on holidays. I send them to spam. My mom is living with her sister. She tries to call me from different numbers sometimes. I changed my number last month, so the calls have finally stopped. Brianna and I actually grabbed coffee a few weeks ago. She's doing okay. She had to declare bankruptcy because Todd had opened credit cards in her name too, which we found out later, but she's rebuilding. She thanked me for stopping the wedding. She said seeing him in cuffs was traumatizing, but realizing she almost married a sociopath was worse. We are close, too much painful history, but we are cool. I got my money back. Well, mostly. The bank fraud investigation cleared me of the debt, and my credit score has bounced back to the mid-700s. It took months of phone calls and paperwork, but the fraud flag on my file is gone. I didn't buy a house yet. I decided I needed a fresh start. I took a job offer in a different city, about 500 miles away. I'm renting a nice loft, making good money, and for the first time in my life, I'm not looking over my shoulder. I've been in therapy for 6 months. My therapist says I have a lot of enmeshment trauma to work through. I'm learning that love isn't supposed to cost you your safety or your future. I still have nightmares sometimes, usually about the police walking into the church. But then I wake up in my quiet apartment, check my bank account, which only I have access to, and I realize I'm free. I lost my family, yes, but I saved myself. Thank you for telling me not to wait until after the honeymoon. You guys saved my life.